Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? This is Colin, back at it again with episode 19 of A New Direction, the podcast where I talk about all sorts of things and just kind of give advice and my opinions on a variety of different topics. And so today, like usual, we've got 4 different topics of discussion and a music recommendation. And so we're going to start right off with that recommendation. And today it's going to be the album Meta Modern Sounds in Country Music by Sturgill Simpson. Now, this is like a post country, like psychedelic country kind of album. It has a very like good classic kind of country sound. It's definitely not like this album came out in 2014, but it definitely doesn't sound like modern country, or at least kind of what I associate the sound of modern country with. It's definitely much more, classically inspired by more classic artists. And so that really shines through. But on top of that, you've also got like these more like psychedelic, atmospheric sort of things going on with like different like drones in the background and like reverb and almost like post-rocky guitar work in some areas that just kind of generates like an atmosphere. And so the way that Sturgill Simpson kind of put these two genres together is really, really cool. And it makes for a really good listening experience. I actually really love this album, and it was recommended to me by my brother, who had told me about a little bit more about Sturgill Simpson's music after I had recommended Ricky Sings Again in one of the previous episodes. And so, shout out to Connor for recommending to me this, because this is a really, really good album. Notable tracks for me are Life of Sin and It Ain't All Flowers, both of which are very good tracks. And I mean, this is one of those albums where you really can't go wrong with any of them. They're all really solid. There's a cover of the song The Promise, which is one of my favorite songs from like the 80s, although I must admit the band that created it slips my brain right now. But I remember I learned that song from the movie Napoleon Dynamite, which I would recommend as well if you've never seen. But those are the noble tracks. I overall give this album like a 9 out of 10. Like, it's really, really good. Definitely like a new favorite of mine, and will definitely be in the daily rotation as far as, listening to music at work and, in my personal life. It will definitely be a new, top of the charts for me, I guess. But with that being said, we're going to dive right into the topics of discussion. And so the first one is going to be a breakdown of my favorite video games of all time, and kind of like why and, what brings me to that conclusion. And so I've got 4 options here, and I must admit that it's very difficult for me to rank video games like as far as my favorite of all time, because a lot of it would definitely be like nostalgia from, being younger, like in middle school, the social experiences that were brought about by it, and like all the interactions I had and people I met. There's a lot more that just kind of goes into the whole experience of playing a video game, besides just playing it. And so it's kind of difficult for me to come up with a concrete list of games that I would say would be like my favorite of all time. But my list here, the first one is going to be Call of Duty Black Ops 2, which I believe came out in 2012, at the end of 2012. And so Black Ops 2 was like the follow-up to Call of Duty Black Ops, which was a very, very well-received game by fans. The Black Ops I guess saga began, because there's 4 of those games now. But Black Ops 2 is like the continuation of Black Ops 1, except Black Ops 2 is like near future. I believe it was set in like 2025 or something like that. And so, back in 2012, that was still, a good 13 years away. So it's kind of futuristic. The weapons are a little more futuristic than, what you would find in Black Ops, which is more like Vietnam style, like Cold War era. So a lot of I guess creative liberty was taken by Treyarch when coming up with the weapons, because they're definitely still like inspired by real weapons in real life, but they definitely kind of have a futuristic vibe. But Black Ops 2 is my favorite game in the whole series, I would say. Not necessarily because it was the strongest playing game. Like, it was really, really fun, and it was addictive. honestly, which is I think why I liked it so much. But I mean, I will admit, like, there are other shooters that have a better feel than Black Ops 2. And there's actually another one on this list that we'll discuss a little later on. But Black Ops 2 just played such an instrumental role in my like childhood. Like when I was in middle school, like me and my group of friends would like play Black Ops 2 all weekend, every weekend. And it was just like a routine. Like we would just set up, get on the Xbox, hop on the party, and we would all just go play Black Ops 2 until it was like 4 a.m. And, we would do it through the weekend stuff too. Like, it came to a point, Black Ops 2 was just like an everyday kind of thing for us. We would all just play and enjoy it. And a lot of the friends that I have today, I met back in those days. Those were Black Ops 2 was kind of what brought us all together. Like Devin, for example, me and Devin really got close. Like we had known each other, and I've talked about this before, I think, but we had known each other before. But Black Ops 2 is what really like brought us together. I guess it's what kind of solidified our friendship, because we would play like every weekend, and sometimes our friends wouldn't be open at the time, and so it would be just me and him. And so that was really how a lot of my friendships came around, and not just with Devin, but with other people that I know as well. And so Black Ops 2 definitely had like an instrumental role in, I'm trying to get this hair out of my eyes. It definitely had an instrumental role in like, my social circle and just like my social development overall. I was really, really happy with how it turned out. Had it not been for Black Ops 2, I don't really know who I would be talking to today. And so for that reason, and just the fact that Black Ops 2 is just a really great game, like it's probably the best Call of Duty from kind of that middle period, because I wouldn't say it's early, but like Black Ops, Modern Warfare 2, kind of Black Ops 2, kind of like that span of time. I think Black Ops 2 was definitely my favorite out of all of those, even though I still think Modern Warfare 2 is like a cooler game. I didn't get to play it in its prime, so Black Ops 2 was kind of like my Modern Warfare 2 for like older school fans. But with that being said, my second game would be Battlefield 3, which this game is also pretty old. I want to say this might be like even earlier. This might be like 2011. Battlefield 3 came out a long time ago, but Battlefield 3 was like the first shooter that I had ever seen that like, I don't know, like was so realistic. And I mean, I know that's kind of funny to say because Battlefield is really not a very realistic shooter at all. But back in those days, like I was young, like I hadn't really, and when I was young, I wasn't really able to play a lot of violent games. Like, my parents were a little strict about that for a little while. And so, I wasn't really able to play Battlefield 3, but, I would kind of go off and, watch gameplay of it or talk to my friends about it who had it. And like, there was just this like mysterious nature surrounding this game for me, because like, I would see the gameplay and like you could like look down and see your legs and stuff, and like it was all animated like you're running and everything. And that was something I had never seen before in a video game, because, Call of Duty didn't have that. Not a lot of other shooters at the time really had that, honestly, like, or at least that I would have been exposed to. And so Battlefield 3 was like the first like realistic FPS game that, I had the opportunity to see. But not only that, I also played it like a lot. I had it on Xbox 360 at first. And Battlefield on console has definitely not been as good an experience as Call of Duty. I know like Battlefield back on the 360 was capped at 30 FPS. Meanwhile, Call of Duty would run at 60. And so you could even like, there was definitely like a noticeable feel difference in the kind of Battlefield felt a little more sluggish. But I believe next gen, like when Xbox One PS4 came out, I believe Battlefield went on to 60 FPS. And so that made a big difference and kind of brought them a little closer, in my opinion. But Battlefield in general has always felt like a more kind of clunky game compared to Call of Duty. Like it's definitely got a lot more like weight to it, and it plays very differently. The progression is very different. The gameplay just in general is very different with the large scale warfare. So Battlefield 3, Xbox was kind of my first exposure with it, but I actually played it a lot on PC. Like 6 years ago, back in like 2015, 2016, I was playing Battlefield 3 on PC like a lot. I would go on and grind out the team deathmatch games and earn like a bunch of score and like rank up a whole bunch. And like I was just grinding out this game back in the day, and it was really fun. Black Ops or Battlefield 3, sorry, had a similar kind of effect on me that Black Ops 2 had. Just kind of later on, like, and less socially involved. Like Black Ops or Battlefield, I keep calling it Black Ops. Battlefield 3 was a very kind of addicting experience as well for me, and so I really enjoyed playing Battlefield 3 in my solo time. And it's honestly been one of the few games, like, even though it's very team based, I've had just as much fun playing solo. In some cases, Battlefield is definitely able to give you that experience. And so Battlefield 3 comes in second, and then third, Battlefield 4. And I know it's like one right after the other, but Battlefield 4 is kind of a similar sort of situation to Black Ops 2 for me, because Battlefield 4 was a big social thing for me. Me and my friends would party up on PlayStation, and this was like in high school. This was like earlier on in high school. So a good bit after the Black Ops 2 days, but like a few years, 2 years probably removed. But we were in high school and we had all kind of moved on. And so, I had a PS4 at the time. And then I had my PC, which back then my PC wasn't as bad as it came to be. And, because of that, I built this new one. But, back then it was feasible. Like it was a solid system. And so, yeah, Battlefield 4 was kind of another one of those Black Ops 2 situations for me because it was very social. Like me and my friends would party up and we would play all weekend. Just a little more in moderation. Like it wasn't literally all weekend like it was back when we were more carefree with Black Ops 2. But it was still a very social experience, and we would all hop on the party and get really into it. And Battlefield 4 definitely had a lot more content as well compared to Battlefield 3. Like there were a lot more weapons and attachments that you could earn. There was a lot more just progression in general, I felt. More unlocks and everything. And then the maps, I really loved the maps on Battlefield 4. They added some really good maps too with the DLC. The second assault, especially the Metro, definitely probably my favorite map ever from Battlefield. And so I cannot even tell you how many countless hours I spent playing 24/7 high ticket Metro servers that would just last the games. Each game would last like an hour because there were so many respawns available for each team. And so, I would just sit and grind that out and earn a bunch of XP. And then me and my friends would get on and do it too. And, I played Battlefield 4 with a lot of friends, like a lot of different people. So I can't necessarily say I met new people through Battlefield 4 like I did through Black Ops 2, but Battlefield 4 still gave me a very social experience and brought me closer with a lot of people. And so I'm very grateful for that. Battlefield 4 is definitely a game that I played a lot. Like I have like well over 300 total play hours combined between all consoles and PC for Battlefield 4, which doesn't sound like a lot actually. I have almost like 1,350 hours in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, but that is still not one of my favorite games of all time, I would say. Even though I played it, it is my most played game of all time. CSGO is definitely not one of my favorites. It made me very aggravated. I spent a whole bunch of money on skins. Like it was my life. I would come home from school and just play CSGO. It was kind of sad. But I would say that Battlefield 4 had a good impact as well, kind of for me in the social sense. And so I'm kind of very grateful for the memories I have from playing Battlefield 4. But lastly, we have Dark Souls 3, which is a game that, honestly, the storyline of it, I'm not necessarily crazy familiar with. But I'm always been a huge fan of the Souls series games. And Dark Souls 3 is the one that I have the most experience with. It is very true that it is very difficult. It lives up to its kind of rumor that surrounds it. It is very, very difficult. The combat is very... I don't even know how to describe it. Like it is very, very precise, and you have to be on your game because like if you and the thing is with Dark Souls 3 like this, the game like starts out and you already have a boss to fight within the first like 2 minutes of gameplay. You have Idex Gandir that you have to fight right at the beginning of the game, who has like a whole bunch of health, and you're like not prepared at all for this battle. And so it is definitely a very good like introduction to or almost like a summary even of the Dark Souls like style of gameplay, because You are probably, I mean, there are obviously games that are probably more difficult than Dark Souls to play, but just like in general to the like more mainstream market, you are not going to find a more difficult game than Dark Souls, or that also extends to like Bloodborne and the Demon Souls remake and everything too. Like, Souls games are very difficult, and so yeah, Dark Souls 3 is one of those games that like I kind of really enjoy just kind of sitting down and trying it out because it was something new. And as you can kind of tell from my list, I've played a whole lot of shooters, and so Dark Souls 3 is kind of like a departure from that. And it was my first real kind of delve into that more complicated. And I think it's more like an RPG. It's not like Skyrim, which is a game that I also love. Or the Elder Scrolls series in general, but it's definitely more RPG than a shooter would be. And so kind of having to carry on and like make your way through all of these different combat scenarios and boss battles, it's a lot of fun, and it will make you very, very upset. So if you are prone to getting very, very upset, I would not recommend sitting down and playing Dark Souls for a long time unless you want to like throw your controller through the wall or out the window or through the monitor. Dark Souls is not the game for you. But with that being said, we're going to transition into the next topic here, which is going to be the new Battlefield game, which is Battlefield 2042, and kind of my opinions on it so far, because I actually have had some playtime with this game. I haven't played the new Call of Duty Vanguard yet. I honestly don't know if I'm going to, because I don't really like the direction that Call of Duty went in after probably like Black Ops 3. Kind of post Black Ops 3, Call of Duty lost me a little bit. And Black Ops 3 even though I liked that game, it wasn't great. It didn't have the same impact that like Black Ops 2 had on me. But if I ever get some chance to play Vanguard, I will definitely kind of give my thoughts on it. But Battlefield 2042. So I'm playing on PC. I have like the EA Play free trial. It's like 10 hours of playtime that you get for being a member. And so I've had some time to play it. Me and my friend Dylan have been playing it. Shout out to Dylan. He's a real one. But we've been kind of playing it we started last night. And then we'll probably play some more here in the upcoming days. But I'm still not. I want to start out before I get my thoughts by saying I am not sure if I'm going to buy it yet. So if you want any sort of like summary of kind of overall my opinion, I would say that's probably the most telling statement. I'm not sure if I'm going to buy it yet. But I will like to talk about kind of why that is, kind of give my breakdown. And maybe if anybody's listening who wants to buy Battlefield 2042, maybe this can sway you or persuade you to buy it or not to buy it. And so with that being said, we're going to dive in. So the pros of this game. For one, it's a very beautiful, beautiful game. My system, my GTX 1050 or 1060, not 1050, my 1060 is getting pretty old now. It's like 5 years old. It's the 6 GB version. And so even still, it runs this brand new Battlefield game with these huge, like 128 player servers with full smooth 60 FPS at medium settings. I could honestly probably try to run it a little higher than that and see. But that is just like the full medium preset. I have motion blur off and I have the FOV up to 90. But other than that, it's just the preset. And I get a smooth 60 FPS. I don't really get a lot of frame rate drop or frame rate issues. So the performance, at least on my system, which is kind of beefy as far as processor and everything goes. The graphics card is really the bottleneck in there. But as far as that goes, the performance is really, really solid for a game that I've heard has been kind of rushed and the development has been very kind of choppy with it. The performance is really good for me. And so I can't really complain in that area. So like I said, the graphics are really good. The gunplay is really good. The weapons are very satisfying to shoot. They like when you fire them, it feels very satisfying, just how punchy they are. And just like it feels very weighty. Like I don't know. And like when you shoot, like and you're hitting targets, like it feels very punchy and weighted, and like it doesn't feel like it's on rails. Like you definitely feel like there's some weight behind the actions you're doing. And so I really enjoy the feel of this game. Now, I will say, as far as PC, it is not as smooth as Battlefield 4, at least in my experience. Battlefield 4 is probably like Battlefield 3 and 4, I would say. Battlefield 4 I have more experience with on PC, has the smoothest gameplay out of any game I've ever played on PC, I would say, out of any shooter, at least. This game is not quite up to that level, but it is still very smooth, and there might be some tweaking I can do in the settings. Like I said, I haven't really messed around with it too much, but there might be some tweaking I can do in the settings that will, make it a little bit smoother in that regard. The integration with Origin and EA Play and Steam is all really cool. I like that it's no longer, universal to one platform, or reserved for one platform. But I will say that kind of is almost a hindrance, and we'll get into that. But I do like the integration, and it's very easy to make a squad and to join your friends in the game. And overall, the Battlefield experience in 2042, the social multiplayer aspects are much better on PC than they have been in previous iterations. Very smooth, very easy, very seamless. It's not like Battlelog where you have to go on Google Chrome and like actually go to a website to join a server or anything like how it used to be. It's very smooth here, and so I'm a fan. The overall like experience of actually playing the game, like the movement, the shooting mechanics, like I said, the firefights, all of that is really solid. Like, it's a very solid, like, fundamental game. And so I do have a good time playing it. Like, I do enjoy it, at least playing with Dylan. I can't say for sure if it's a game that I would play a whole bunch on my own. That's definitely something I'm kind of got to figure out. But with friends, this is definitely a good game. However, we're going to dive into the cons, starting off with that EA Play, EA platform, whatever it's called, Origin integration. And so I say that because EA is developing like a new app that's going to, like, I guess, replace Origin when it fully gets fleshed out. And you can't run them both at the same time. And they're connected, but they're kind of not. And it's really buggy right now, like having to deal with both apps. And so that would be my first gripe about this game, is the Origin / EA app integration. Is not very good right now. And I mean, this is definitely probably like reserved for PC. Like, I don't really think Xbox or PlayStation players are going to have the same issue, since Origin is not really a thing on console. But the integration with that is kind of weird, because you can't have them both running at the same time since they share data, but they're not exactly connected. Like, the EA app takes like a little more, like, it shows you more information and is a little more cleaner looking, but Origin is like, reliable, and it still works, and it's easy. The UI is a little cleaner and easier to use, but you can't use them both at the same time. So it's kind of like, what's going on here? Can't say I'm a fan of that one. However, when it works and everything is smooth, it's not too terribly bad. I have to say it's it could be worse. But that was my first gripe. My second gripe is going to be the lack of base game weapons. So the way Battlefield 2042 works is organized. There's 3 main big game modes. Although I guess really there's only 2, because one of them is one that I don't think is going to get a lot of playtime after launch. It's like a swarm kind of mode. So like a exfil royale or something. I don't know, but I don't really foresee that getting a lot of playtime, because it's squad based against AI rather than other players. So I don't really foresee that having a huge replay value after people check it out and play it for like an hour. But the 2 main game modes, you have the standard base game, which is 2042. It's got the Conquest, and then the Breakthrough, which is pretty much just Rush. And then it's got the Portal mode, which is really cool, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. But the base game, which has the Conquest and the Breakthrough, is lacking significantly in the amount of weapons that are available. There are only like 2 LMGs in the whole game, like 3 sniper rifles. It's like, we're like talking like low-key, like worse than older Call of Duty games as far as weapon availability goes. Like, it's not quite on the level of like COD 4, but it's almost like kind of like World at War or maybe Modern Warfare 2. Like it's there's not a lot of base game weapons here for a Battlefield game, which is odd because Battlefield 4 had and even Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5, all of them just had a whole bunch of different weapons that were available for the base game. And so a lot of this, I think, does have to do with the Portal game mode. But it's kind of disappointing. Like, you go in and you have these few weapons you can use, and the class system, they really goofed up the class system. So you no longer have like assault, recon, engineer, and support. You've got like different specialists, so it's kind of getting in that specialist territory that I'm not so sure if I'm a fan of that, because some specialists, like, you obviously are just not going to use, and some of them are just like obviously kind of broken right now and overpowered. So definitely going to be kind of like a balancing act to see how they're able to balance everything. But you've got all these specialists with all these abilities, but you don't have that lot of weapon availability, and so it's kind of disappointing. Like, everybody just kind of uses the same weapons, and the customization for the weapons is also not very good right now. Like, going into the loadout screen and like putting your optics or your attachments on your weapons is not in a good state right now. It's very confusing, which is not how it should be for a shooter. Like, you should just be able to go in and attach, your sight, your grip, and everything, and just go. Like, you shouldn't have to go through all these menus and press all these buttons to have to do that. So I'm not a fan of that. And then the Portal game mode is really, really, really good. I want to start off by saying that the Portal game mode is probably the high point of the game. However, it kind of says a lot about the game overall, because the Portal game mode pretty much is like remastered versions of older Battlefield experiences. So they've got like Battlefield 3 No Shark Canals on there, and it's like all the Battlefield 3 player models and weapons and voice actors. Even like the lines are exactly the same. The maps look exactly the same, but it's all remastered and like in the new engine and everything. And there's a lot of weapons available. Obviously not the whole catalog from the game, but the main weapons from the game for all the classes are pretty much available. And I think that's really cool. So the Battlefield 3 one's great. The Bad Company 2 one especially is really good. It really kind of feels like you're playing Bad Company 2, which is crazy, because Bad Company 2 had a very unique feel to it, in my opinion. And so it definitely accurately recreates that. And then right now it also has Battlefield 2042, a conquest experience on there, so the World War II theme. Those are the three ones that are offered base on launch. However, it's a community-driven game mode, so the community can make their own game modes and come up with their own, rule sets. And so I'm assuming there'll be like Prop Hunt and Michael Myers, all sorts of game modes that are going to come out. And it's all community-driven, and it's really cool. The Portal is definitely like the biggest aspect of the game and the driving point. However, I think it says a lot about the game overall that people are more attracted to the remasters of older games than they are the newer game itself. Like, because everybody pretty much praises the Portal mode as being like the best part of the game. Well, the Portal mode is literally just remakes of older Battlefield games. So it's kind of like, that kind of says a lot about the base game and kind of the game overall. It's like, to carry it along, the remasters are going to do that, and there's a lot of nostalgia there. But the experience overall is really good. The Portal mode is really good, and it is very deserving of the praise. But I do think that it's kind of, a hindrance in a way as well, because it's, kind of shits all over the base game. But, with that being said, that's kind of like my overall thoughts, pros and cons of the new Battlefield game. If I were to rate it as it sits right now, I'd give it like a 6.5 out of 10. Like, it's not perfect. It is in dire need of more maps, more weapons, more balance, but it hasn't even officially released yet. The official release date is the 19th, so when this comes out, it will officially be out. However, I'm hoping there will be like a day one patch with some fixes and maybe add some more content even, but I'm curious to see kind of in the long term how this game's going to grow and develop, and I will definitely be keeping my eye on it. I'm not going to buy it at this point, I don't think. I like it. I like the Portal mode, and I like the base game okay. The base game is pretty good. Like, it's fun, but the Portal mode is definitely, I feel, where a lot of people are going to be spending their time. And so I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to buy this yet. But right now I give it like a 6.5 out of 10. That's on PC. The experience on console may be different. It's hard to say. But with that being said, we're going to move on into the next topic. And this video is going to be another one of those longer episodes, it looks like. I hope y'all don't mind. But we're going to talk about my love of horror movies and scary things in general. And so I've probably, brushed on this in the past, but I really do love horror movies. I love I have a fascination with the macabre, like I just like horror movies. I like creepy things. I like criminal psychology and true crime breakdowns, and I'm really into, a lot of different things, but all of them is kind of what stemmed from my original and continuous love of horror movies and just horror, the genre. And so I guess I don't know necessarily why horror is my favorite genre. I don't know why I was drawn to that from so young of an age, really. But I even when I was young, I remember when I was like 3 or 4 years old, me and my grandmother watched the Jeepers Creepers. I think we watched Jeepers Creepers 2 one time, and we didn't know at the time, like at that point, like it was on TV, and it was one of those things. It's like we didn't really know the rating, and my grandmother wasn't familiar with it, and so we just kind of put it on and started watching it. And like there was the scene on the bus where he like licks the window on the bus or something, and yeah, that I still can remember that to this day. And so maybe that's where my love of horror and kind of creepy things spawned from, because that was really my first like horror movie that I can remember, was watching that. And so, ever since I've been young, I guess since in middle school, really, I've had a love for horror movies. My favorites, I would have to say, would be The Exorcist. This is probably not in order, but The Exorcist, The Conjuring 1, both of those are good. The Sixth Sense, although I don't necessarily know if that's like a horror movie per se, but yeah, The Sixth Sense is a very good movie. Other horror movies, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say, really. I like Hereditary. Hereditary is really good. And just in general, Midsummer, that the same director, I'm a fan of his work. And then my favorite all-time probably movie, like if I had to pick like a desert island like horror movie, I would pick The Lighthouse, which stars, who does that have in it? Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, directed by Robert Eggers. Fantastic movie. Love that movie to death. I went and saw it an hour away in the theaters when it came out with Connor and Parth. And I've seen it, I've seen it that time, and then I've seen it like 2 other times, I think. But even still, despite the fact that I've seen other movies more than this movie, it is still my favorite. I love it. It is a fantastic movie, and I highly recommend it to anybody who wants to watch a very psychological horror movie that's very unique, a very unique style, the way it's filmed. And maybe we'll do like an episode or like a deep dive on that movie at some point, because it is definitely a movie that has stuck with me, and one that I really enjoyed going to see. But yeah, I would definitely say that was probably like at the top of my list for favorite horror movies, was The Lighthouse. But in general, I like a lot of different horror movies. I will say the market for horror is very oversaturated. There's a lot of hot garbage out there, a lot of teenage like PG-13 horror movies, which honestly most of those I don't even watch. Because it's pretty much guaranteed that they're going to be garbage. Like one that comes to mind right off the top of my head is Slender Man. There was another one, Truth or Dare. Like you got those PG-13 kind of like, they're really bad, and they star like, these young adult actresses and actors who are just, you can tell it's like a, not a very good script, and it's just poorly written, poorly acted in some cases, But there are some really good horror movies out there as well that come out. It's kind of finding like the diamonds in the rough. I don't know. I think that horror in general is a genre that requires a lot of, if you're going to try to get into it as a movie director, or like you're trying to get it requires a lot of like carefulness. You got to be cautious. You gotta make sure that, you're not, being too much or relying too much on jump scares or on, sound cues and all that. Like you want to make a horror movie that's scary because of it's scary, like it's immersive, it's got the vibe, the energy, and it's just dark and you can feel the tension. Like it's supposed to build tension, but it's supposed to be like natural too. Like you don't want to force the tension, you want to build it naturally over the watch time. And so, as there's a lot of horror movies that are good at that. There's a lot of horror movies that aren't good at that. But in general, horror has just been my favorite genre, and even books too. Stephen King is an author. I've read It. I've read Salem's Lot. I've read Pet Sematary. I've read like a whole bunch of his books. The Shining. I have a lot of Stephen King knowledge with his books. The Outsider. I love all of his kind of actual horror books. I know he's written a few more like fantasy sort of oriented things as well, but his horror novels are my favorite. I love horror novels in general. I have quite a few, but I would definitely say my favorite horror novel that I've read would probably be It. It's very long, very drawn out, very overly detailed, and there are a lot of things that are just completely unnecessary in it, but overall it's a great book. It's a good story, and it's almost like a flex by Stephen King. He's like, I wrote this big ass 1,300 page, literally like almost biblical length book, and he was still like on heroin and all this stuff. Like, I don't know. Stephen King was like, he was going through it when he was writing a lot of these books back in the day. But that's all I can really say about that. But, scary things in general is just like, I like that. I kind of like like when I went to that haunted trail, that was cool. The environment. I like the vibe of it. And just being scared, like your adrenaline flows, watching, movies and getting jump scared, or like going to like a trailer, anything like that. Like anything that's kind of scary and creates that dramatic kind of scary tension is something I'm drawn towards. I like that. I don't know, like I said, I don't really know where that comes from, but it is definitely an interest of mine that I have. And it's definitely one that I will be kind of building on in the future for sure as well, kind of, trying new experiences, going to more trails, going to concerts even can be kind of scary depending on who you're going to see. I know Mayhem is playing in March, so there's a chance I might be going to that concert. They're playing with Watain, who is a Swedish black metal band. So I don't know, I might be interested in going to that. We'll see, depending on how, if my brother goes or if Devin goes, or, kind of how it ends up working out. But, that, stuff like that can almost be kind of scary depending on the vibe that they put on and the effects that they put forth in the concert and the performance. So it's very interesting to see kind of how many different scary things are in just day-to-day life that you wouldn't even think about, or, hobbies you might have that could be scary. But, horror is just like my thing. I don't know. I kind of talked a long time about that, but I mean, it's true. It's, horror is definitely something that, it's a shared interest with a lot of people, but I haven't personally met a whole bunch of people who kind of like it in the same way that I do. Like, I don't know. Like my brother is a pretty big like horror fan as well. But, my friends in school, a lot of them didn't really like horror movies all that much, or, we're not as big into it. They didn't like the same kind of, vibe, I guess. But, to each their own. But I definitely love horror movies. And so I guess to the people who have listened this far, what are your favorite horror movies or, horror series, anything like that, books, any sort of horror genre things? What are your favorites? But that's going to transition us here into the last topic, which is semi-related to the last one. So some of my favorite overall movies and series, and then like stuff I want to watch in the future. So my overall favorite movies and series, like I had said, The Lighthouse is number one. As far as the like horror stuff goes, outside of horror, the movie Ad Astra is pretty good. I like The Exorcist, which is, it's a horror movie. A lot of my picks you'll probably find will be horror movies. I like, I don't know, like movies are kind of hard for me because I've watched more like series and stuff than I have movies. I like a lot of Pixar movies as well. I like Monsters Inc., Monsters University, Finding Nemo. I think a lot of people think that's kind of childish, but I mean, those movies are honestly really good. They're well acted, they're well developed, they have good plots, and they're interesting. So I mean, I can't really fault them. They're really good. There's nothing wrong with liking, Pixar as an adult. Um, but yeah, I like, mostly horror stuff, which I've kind of touched on. Now, series is kind of a whole different sort of thing in general. I've actually watched, like, some of my favorite series are actually more like anime, and I'm not huge into anime. Like, I don't really like it a whole bunch like that. But Naruto is an excellent series. Attack on Titan is an excellent series, and Tokyo Ghoul is an excellent series. Those are three animes that I have watched. Um, I have actually not finished Naruto, and I actually haven't finished any of them as far as I know. I had finished Attack on Titan at the time, but then season 4 came out, so I need to watch that. I have one season of Tokyo Ghoul left to go, but I got all the way up to the final season. It's a really good show. I recommend it. And then Naruto is just so absurdly long. Like I got like 5 or 6 seasons into that, and then kind of fell off with it. But being that I will more than likely pick it back up when I have the ability to actually like sit and spend more time watching movies. As I don't really have a television at the moment. I will definitely probably be watching that. And then South Park is another show that I have watched and seen before, but I would like to watch like the whole thing. South Park is hilarious. Regular show, like just a lot of different like things that I honestly should have watched when I was younger and just never really did. I must admit, like my interest in movies and series has not been very high in a long time. Like it's only been very, very recently, like within the past like week or two, that I've kind of had some more genuine interest in going back and like watching more movies, shows, television. Kind of seeing the things that I missed out on. Watching older movies. I really think that there's a lot of classics that I've completely just missed out on or not even given a chance because I kind of had a closed-minded mentality about it. And so I think that going back and watching some stuff will be cool. As far as other series, I like SpongeBob a lot too. Jimmy Neutron, Fairly Odd Parents. And I think I've talked about some of my favorite shows before. Like that might have been episode 1. That was favorite episodes, or favorite series. But it's the media in general is definitely something that I'm trying to get a little more into. Like I said, television, movies, and series and stuff like that. So, if any of y'all have recommendations on any movies or series or anything like streamable, Netflix, Hulu, Plex, anything like that, that y'all would recommend, please drop them in the comments because I would love to garner like a little list of stuff to watch. And if it's a popular sort of thing and people are interested, I would even be interested in doing like reviews of movies or talking about movies more in depth, kind of and analyzing them. That's something that I really enjoy doing. And so if that's content that y'all be interested in, I would definitely be interested in providing. With that being said, though, I do believe that this is going to wrap up this episode 19 here of A New Direction. Almost there to 20. It's crazy. And I know I say that like every episode, but it really is crazy how quickly these are going by. And so I just want to take a second. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for the continued success and support on these episodes. I really appreciate the likes and the comments and the views and everything. It means a lot to me to see that people are actually tuning in to watch this and that it's not just me kind of talking and being boring. But with that being said, I hope you all are having a good day, a good night, wherever it may be in your time zone, and that you are in a positive headspace. And if not, just know things will be better, things will get better, and you are stronger than your circumstances. But with that being said, I have been Colin. This is episode 19 of A New Direction. Stay chill, and I will talk to y'all next time.